America has this presumption that this is the land of opportunity, but it's certainly not the land of equal opportunity. Years old and decided to become a vegetarian. And I was the only one in my school who chose to do that, took a lot of flack for being different, but stuck to my guns. And 48 years later, still a vegetarian. Actually have become a vegan since. So my parents, I would say, were significant contributors to my being a troublemaker, as you define it. My father very much encouraged me to question authority. At the same time, being the only vegetarian in my family was not convenient. And my mom worked outside of the home, and she didn't have time to cook two separate meals. And so I would say they were unexcited about it, both because it wasn't convenient and also they had health concerns. And would I get enough protein? And basically the agreement we came to was I would have to cook my own meals, which generally consisted of grilled cheese or something very healthy and like that. But yeah, so they were not enthusiastic about it. At the same time, they respected it, and over time, I think saw it as a positive thing. One was that I liked animals more than I liked people at that stage in my life. So I was a skinny kid with long hair and got picked on a lot. Got called a girl, which, at that time was, at least in my circle, like the worst thing you can say to a boy, who's 11. So I generally was, I don't know if antisocial was the right word, but was a bit of a loner and really loved animals, and had seen a cat catch a squirrel, a neighboring cat, and I rescued the squirrel, took it away from the cat, then put it in our garage, and eventually it died. And I recognized that I was essentially, through my parents, paying people to kill squirrels or cows or pigs or whatever animal. And so I didn't want to support the killing of innocent animals. Sure. So I've had probably fewer struggles than the average person. I've had a pretty fortunate life, but I think we all go through challenges. I think the biggest insight that I've had over the years is to view criticism as a gift. So when somebody tells me, and this very, very rarely happens, but if somebody tells me you're perfect, you're great, well, that doesn't give me an opportunity to get any better. If anything, it can make me feel complacent. Whereas if somebody, hopefully in a constructive way, but whether or not it's done with love, if they're giving me tough feedback on ways that I can improve, well, that's a gift. That's something that can enable me to be better. And so I would say, one of the things that I've learned is to welcome challenging feedback and reflect on it and build off of it. Another thing I've done, I would say, like many of us, I've got a good circle of family and friends, people who care about me, I care about them, and I lean on them in difficult times, helps me get perspective. And then also reading. When I started Uncommon Goods, it was 1999, the internet boom, and then within a year, if not less, the internet bubble burst and we had to shrink from 35 people down to 5 people. And it was an incredibly painful experience, most notably for the people who lost their jobs. But it was also tough on me as a leader who had created this business, hired these people, and then turned around and had to fire some of them for no sin other than having believed in me. And so I read some books. There's a book called Endurance by Ernest Shackleton about his ill-fated Antarctic exploration, and then also a book about Southwest Airlines founder Herb Kelleher called Nuts, and just talked about how many years it took before Southwest was able to overcome legal challenges and able to fly their first plane. So those things helped give me perspective that, hey, you're not the first person to encounter turbulence in business. And I'd say the last thing is just believing in myself, and working hard. That's, you put one foot in front of the other. You can spend a lot of time wringing your hands, but ultimately you can solve a lot of problems through hard work and perseverance. In terms of an idea, I think it's equal opportunity. America has this presumption that this is the land of opportunity, but it's certainly not the land of equal opportunity. And so that's something that, an idea that I care a lot about, and both in the business and in my volunteer work, I try to do what little I can do to level the playing field. So we work hard to pay a living wage. The lowest paid worker at Uncommon Goods does not earn enough, but our starting wage is $20 an hour. And we've also been very involved in advocacy around issues like the minimum wage and paid family leave, offering paid family leave, which is something that we do as a business, and help get laws passed in the last 5 years in New York State, supporting both those issues. And then I would say my parents, as individuals, you can't choose your parents, but if I could, I would have chosen mine. They were and are, they're still alive, but they're people who have walked the talk in their lives. And so, my mother, as a 21-year-old woman, went down to Alabama and participated in the bus boycotts. Yeah, she went by herself. She had read what was going on. She was the only white person in many of the churches and was riding in cars, and was afraid for her life because there were people with guns who were menacing them. But it was a powerful experience for her. We actually were there. My wife and I went a couple of years ago, and right before we were crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and with John Lewis, it was the last year he crossed it, and it was very emotional. So prior to starting Uncommon Goods, I was a research analyst. I spent 14 years on Wall Street studying the retail industry. And one of the companies I was fortunate enough to follow was the Home Depot. And one of the management practices that I learned from them is what they called the inverted pyramid, which is a fancy word for an upside down triangle with the customer on top and the CEO at the bottom. And the idea is, and it's the reality of business, though we often lose track of this, is that the customer is the boss. We work for her, and we have no long-term contracts. If our customer is not happy, she's not going to come back, and we're going to go out of business. And so we have to keep the customer happy. And then if you think about within an organization like ours, who controls the customer experience? It's the person who packs the box or speaks to the customer on the phone or picks the customer order. It's our warehouse and customer service team members. So one of the things that I do and have been doing for over 20 years is I meet with our new hires, all our year-round hires and all our seasonal hires, our warehouse and customer service team members, and do it in person. I could record a video, it would be very efficient, but to me, showing up for them is a way of telling them that they matter and encouraging them to have a voice in the organization. They know the CEO, they see me walking. So one of the ways I get feedback is I walk through the warehouse. We made a decision to shut this warehouse down during COVID, our Brooklyn warehouse, because I walked the floor and spoke to a number of team members who had family members who were immunocompromised. And even though legally we could have kept the warehouse open, we chose to close it because of feedback that I heard from our team. In addition, one of the things that we've started doing, we used to have a physical suggestion box and I would read every idea. We then, during COVID, started a weekly Zoom call and Ask Us Anything. So I talk to the company every week, and people can ask any question. We'll read the question, even if it's not a very kind question, but we read it and we answer it. And so people here have a voice, feel like they have a voice. And my view is that I work for our team, who in turn works, and we all work for the customer.